Hey everybody, so I'm coming on there. If you're feeling this, I really empathize with you. There's a huge shift that is happening within our conscious awareness. It is an understanding that for years that there has been a distortion within our cognitive, our third eye, our awareness, and if that has kept many of us separate from each other. There's a reason it happened, but we're coming to a time where this falseness, this separation, this being against each other, whether it was in communities, whether spiritual communities, among race, among sexes, right? My body's tingling as I'm talking. This level of essence that it has been implemented by lower densities is now being removed in the it's almost like a brain injury that is now, Malachite agrees, a brain injury that it has stemmed throughout the whole body, and it from in the third eye, and it's being those who are exposed to it that are agreeing at this time for it to be released and healed is what's coming up. And so with that, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of anger of certain energies that were involved in this. There is an understanding that based on certain things that you exposed yourself to, that you were part of these negative, you were contributing to the essence of these lower densities. And so there's a lot of grief that comes up, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of awakening of other people's motives, of how, when someone's hurt, there is a level of vulnerability that happens. And when that vulnerability is exposed to lower densities, then what happens is a lot of times that hurt person becomes part of the collective of those lower densities and acts from those impulses. And when you think of gangs or any kind of cult, very much like that. And so with the awakening of this as individual free will, as understanding of what we've exposed ourselves to through choice and through our evolution of growth, there's a responsibility that we as individuals need to take, in the sense of, like, when we go to 12 steps, right? There's this idea of taking responsibility for your actions. The more right now that we are grounding into our bodies, the more of understanding of actually what energies have been influencing us during these times of dissociation, during these times of trauma, during these times of exposing ourselves to different things, trying to find solution. Understanding, yes, it has been part of our evolution, but no longer. If you're waking up to this and really grounding down into this understanding, no longer are you really allowing yourself to put up with these influences. You're taking control and responsibility and sovereignty of your being again. And like I said, there can be grief and anger and all that comes up to the influences, to what you have allowed yourself to be part of, to what others have contributed to you. And so in this understanding, in this reclaim of who you are and your being, a lot can be shifting for you. It starts within, and when it starts within, it ripples without. How you start to interact with others, how you start showing up changes. And if this is very hard, I'm letting you know addictions may be coming up at this time because of the level of dissociation, the level of right? If you're an individual who experienced a lot of trauma growing up, disassociation, from anger, from all these things, have been a way to survive. And if you have chosen to start to really more embody yourself, coming in and integrating these emotions, integrating these actions, and understanding that yes, you were a victim, but reclaiming yourself out of victim mentality, right? There's grief, there's like, keep going back to this idea of this grief, this anger, this rage of how you were used and manipulated in a way, right? There's a victim, but on a higher level, right? On this higher level, it's like you chose to experience this to undo it, to step into. You had a choice, and you have a choice. You always have a choice. And for me, right, I can go back into, like, they showed me the times when these implants had happened, and it's something my soul needed to experience, that my soul needed to have an understanding. And I'm ready right now within my conscious evolution to step into myself and the responsibility of ownership of my body, of my sovereignty, of my actions, and the ebb and flow of that and what comes up, the emotions, the sadness, the rage, and allowing it to move through, and give yourself very much compassion as this happens, because it's a lot, right? But you are held in complete love in whatever you exposed yourself to, B, your actions from the exposure, and the level of vulnerability that you were at from a wounded space, right? There's all these things we want to give ourselves compassion to, and bring love and forgiveness to ourselves, and offer it to others when we're coming from a place, not from shame, but from an empowered place of, like, I did the healing for myself, and now I want to show up and take responsibility for my actions to somebody else, without having an attachment of your value to their response. But you're coming from a place of love, not for love. That's two different energies. We're human. Part of us is human. We are these souls, but part of us is human. And it's allowing ourselves in our evolution journey to make mistakes and to learn and grow from that. And your apologies or whatever may be met with hostility from someone else who has been hurt in it, and understanding that, and understanding that there may be still healing that they need to do around it, because there's still a charge, and understanding that that's okay. That doesn't necessarily, it doesn't mean that you're any less of your soul being. At the core of who all we are is love, is this. And if someone is in a hurt place at this time and are still working through, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean of what you did was okay. But it's just understanding that the match of where you are and they are right now is it's not safe for either of you to be in, because there may be further hurt and wounding that continue. And so to set an intention to have healing conversations, even in the toughness, that your hurt could have hurt somebody really bad, and that you're coming from a place of, like, I'm sorry, I was hurt when I did that, or this was where I was when that happened, and that's not who I'm committed to be, that's not who I want to show up, and that's not who I am. That's not who I am. And I'm sorry if it hurt you. Right? And this talking to yourself about this too. You know, the aspects of yourself that you've hurt, that you've shunned, that you've deemed away, the inner children, right? So this eclipse is really asking us to bring a level of unconditional love and healing of it embodied in the body. You know, it's easy to be in the 5th, 12th dimension up here, but in the body, and bringing that to the humanness and all of it it takes strength. A level of honesty and vulnerability to self first. First and foremost, the self. Because when we bring it to somebody else, or rely on somebody else to have it for us, we're giving them our power. And there is space where someone can help you see, but it's not until you're ready or able to see it for yourself that someone can choose to alter, make change, bring in love and light. And bringing in love and light, yes, it is rainbows and unicorns, but it's not always the most comfortable thing. Moving through that anger and that, you know, like, but I know when I'm in a safe place to release it, it feels so good. So yes, bringing in, inviting in your higher self. Breathing in your heart. If you're in that addiction, I invite you, even as whatever addiction that you're acting out in, take just one moment. Breathe into your heart. Invite your higher self in. Just one moment. And if addiction is something that repetitively happens in your life, start to inquire. Other times in my life when I had been acting like this, what was going on? What is going on in my current theme of life? Is there a common theme that keeps on showing up in the conversations I am having with people that have been hard for me to want to integrate and see and acknowledge? And if there is, let that come. Let that be witnessed, and let your reaction in a healthy space, in a safe place for you, to respond to what that feels like in your body, in your emotional bodies. Throwing a tantrum, throwing stuff, that if you're in a healthy place to do that. Beating the pillows, whatever it is, that anger, that sadness, just letting it all come out, and it coming out in waves, sometimes all at once. It can be overwhelming for your physical being. But if you have been having mystery symptoms, this actually will help you relieve that, because that's just stored up. The physical symptoms are stored up of that charge, of that energy that has not had freedom to be released. Freedom. This is what freedom is about. Freedom of authentic expression. Anger, authentic, pure joy. You know, the more we stuff it over the ages, that energy charge builds up in us. What happens is polarity, bipolar, right? The idea of mania is excessive joy built up over time. And then when something triggers it, it's explosive. And it goes up with the other end of that polarity too. With emotions, with anger, sadness and grief that's been stored down for so long. There's an explosion that comes. When people drink, anger has a freedom of expression. That's why there's some people that are angry drunks, because in the liver is where we store the anger. And what alcohol does is it activates that energy within the liver. It stimulates it. It brings the flow there. And the the build up then has a freedom that goes beyond the the consciousness that tries to dumb it down. So if we give ourselves permission to actually not engage in certain addictive behaviors as a release, as a need for either suppression too. It also, it helps us suppress parts of ourselves too that we don't want to acknowledge. It's like it's a give and take depending on the dependency of it. But when we give ourselves permission to bring in our higher selves, to anchor down the anger that we had disassociated from for so long. This is where grounding practices can be very fearful for individuals because there's so much fear in feeling. But creating that safe space mentally, telling yourself you're safe, physically looking around, making sure that you are safe. It is in these spaces that it is in the cognitive understanding and the physical environmental understanding that safety can be occurred. And freedom of release can be had. And it is very hard if you are in an abusive situation to be able to do this work. Going in the bathroom is a beautiful way of doing it. Under covers is a beautiful way. But when you are in an environment when you're so tense that there's this idea of freedom, that there's so much fear, that protectorness, then you don't have the freedom to access these other parts of you as a coping mechanism, as a way to stay safe, as a safety mechanism. And I really pray, because this is something I know myself, this idea of safety and trying to create it. I pray for all that are not in a safe place that you become empowered to make choices for your own well-being. Yeah, this is a time of radical honesty with self. So please be so gentle, so gentle, so gentle. And open. Giving you all much love wherever you are, whatever you're up against. You got this. Look in the mirror, tell yourself, even if you don't believe it, just tell yourself you got it. Surround yourself with supportive energy. If it is people, great. If it's not physical people, call in your guides for support. Surround that energy around your being. All around your being. You are worthy. I'm sending you all so much love at this time, because I know I'm in this journey with you. I'm there. I'm feeling it too. You're not alone. Sending you all much love.